Good evening. Welcome to Wisconsin FLL Zoom call Monday evening. Now it's 7:30. Just a reminder for those who may not be with us today. As you hopefully heard when you checked in, this call is being recorded, and Jay will be posting it to our YouTube channel tomorrow, shortly thereafter, sometime in the not too distant future. He also puts it up in Slack that it's been posted, so a lot of different ways to get notified. So again, on my left on the screen is Jay Church, our head referee, or one of our two head referees. The other one is Eric Orlowski. And then to my right is Brian Farrell, our head judge advisor. And he's one of two. Brian Hicks may or may not be there here this evening. So let's get into the latest updates that you all should know about because we've sent out a couple newsletters already. The sign up for the regionals is open. The window is open. It will remain open until September 27th. So there is no hurry to get it done immediately. Um, ideally, we'd like you to do it correctly. And what that means is you get the opportunity to rank your top three regionals that you want to attend. So obviously you'll want to check the schedules of your participants and families. Obviously geography will play some sort of a factor in your decision because we do have regionals all over the place. We recently added, those of you that are the new ones this year are Whitewater, which also happens to be our last one. Excuse me, our second to last one. And then we have one in West Salem, which is generally in the La Crosse area. The last one is actually Riverside this year, and that is correct. It is a Tuesday. I've gotten 3 or 4 messages that, are you sure that's correct? Is that a typo? It is a Tuesday. So what we are doing there is something a little bit different, obviously because of the day of the week. But what we're trying to do is get the Milwaukee Public School System teams into the fold of the regular program. And so we're trying to give them an opportunity to do it during the school day. So those of you that know Riverside, they are limited capacity of 24 total. And we are going to give priority to the Milwaukee Public School teams first. So if that is your first choice, just be aware that may be limited by capacity constraints. All right. So a little different story there. Last year, and I mentioned it in the letter, almost 90% of the teams got their first choice. So with the 2 additional regionals, I'm pretty confident we're going to, hopefully, well, I'm confident we're going to get to that number or pretty darn close. So please take your time, make sure you make your choices correctly. If there is an error, of course, you can send me an email, fllteams@badgerbots.org. We'll go back into the Wix spreadsheet and make the change manually. Ideally, we won't have to do that, but we understand things will happen. As you go through your registration, the key data point, other than your 3 selections, is the team number. So where do you get the team number? For those of you that are new, you get the team number, which is 4 or most likely 5 digits from your First Inspires registration, firstinspires.org team registration. So that's the first thing we ask for. And because we have confidence in that number, we don't have to ask for all your coach's emails, and we don't need your address, and we don't need all that other stuff. We take the information from the first database of your registration. So there was a discussion on Slack, I think, about changing the team's name. That's fine. You got plenty of time to do that. So, but we want the number on the registration of the regional selections to be correct. All right. Then everything else will be cross-referenced over to the First Inspires database. So if you need to change your team name, go do it at the firstinspires.org registration. We'll catch it from there. However, if you do change your team name 2 days before the regional or any event for that matter, well, that's putting a pretty big burden on the tournament directors who are preparing all the materials and rubrics and signs a week or two in advance. So if you want to change the team name, great. Just make sure that you try to get it done 2 weeks before the regional or sectional event if you're going to be change your team name at that point. All right. Back to the regional registration. There's the team name, email. I only need one email there because that's there if there's a problem with the registration, meaning the BadgerBots regional registration, not to be confused with the firstinspires.org registration. Sorry if I'm flipping back and forth. All right, so we just need one email. And then there is the 3 preferences. There is a comment section, which the coaches that have registered so far, they get it. They know how to use that. Whatever circumstances we need to know about, put it in the comment section, whether you want to be with certain teams that you are coaching or whether you want to split your teams so that 2 go here, 2 go there, to a different regional. If, what is a common one? You want to be, or you can only attend one tournament, okay, because of schedules and everything else. We still want you to rank 3 tournaments, unique tournaments. Do not put the same one 3 times, please. But in the comments section, please identify we really can only attend November 2nd because that's when all the kids will be available. Okay? So help us put this together as cleanly as possible. And like I said, the ultimate goal is get to 90+% where everybody gets their first choice. If you have any questions, obviously email me at fllteams@badgerbots.org and we'll get your question answered as soon as possible. There also is a question on there for if your team would be willing to present their innovative project presentation during that downtime when the judges are deliberating. So nobody's under any obligation to do it. If you don't want to, just say flat out, say no. It's no big deal. There's no impact on awards, advancement. Your scores are already going to be known and input into the system. So this is just an extra presentation, an opportunity for one team to present in front of a big crowd. What this came from was, well, first of all, another region does this. And so I thought it was a great idea when I brought it back from the conference I went to. Great idea, but it also helps other coaches who frequently will email me or Brian or anybody else for that matter. What do other presentations look like? What was ours missing? What could we have done better? And, obviously we can't be looking at everybody's presentations, even if you video it with your phone or whatever, we're not going to be able to watch all the videos that people would like us to watch. But at least here's one where the judges thought it was a very solid presentation. It may not be the best one. It may not even be the award winner of the innovative project, but it was deemed to be a solid presentation. And of course, that team agreed to present it in front of everybody else. So that's all we're trying to do. Hopefully nobody will make a big deal out of it, but it's a nice opportunity to, kind of check a few boxes. And it certainly could be interesting for the kids who get to present in probably what might be the largest crowd they've ever been in front of. So, any questions?
I was going to say a couple things on that. There's not a Q&A. Okay, it's just doing the 5-minute presentation part. And like Craig said, this has no bearing on whether you're going to get an award or not. My guess is we'll probably, do it before long. We'll ask a team long before we have seen all the teams. So it's, don't count on it being the top team at the tournament. Judge deliberations will have not had happened or anything yet.
All right. Any questions from the chat? I see something going on there.
There was a question about when Riverside was. I said it was Tuesday, December 10th.
Yes. That is not a typo. I will repeat that. I got at least 3 communications. Are you sure that's right? It is
Well, it's
correct.
definitely abnormal to what
Yes.
we've done in the past.
We should probably just tell people as well. So the capacity is not 24, Craig. I think he's at 8. So I think a lot of those spots are
Okay.
intended to go for Milwaukee public schools, like you said. So if you can, we certainly want to fill Riverside to their capacity, but I probably wouldn't bank on, okay, Riverside is the only tournament we can make. So if you're
Right.
selecting Riverside as your number one choice, make sure you have the availability to another tournament because that's going to fill. I mean, yeah.
We're kind of
Well,
running
8
this as a
is
pilot.
obviously news to me. So we will obviously get clarification of that before we start making the assignments.
Yeah, he just answered us on Slack, so that's anyway. So if you're planning on selecting Riverside, that's fine. There may be a couple slots available, but like I said, don't plan on that's your bread and butter. If you don't go, you can't go to tournament because you may not get that slot.
Yeah, the schedule that's going to be a shorter day. It'll be a lot fewer teams, and we're trying to work out some logistics on it yet.
So we have a question, Craig. This is for you. We're waiting on a grant. So before we sign up for our tournament, do we need to be registered?
So the ideal answer is yes, you should be registered, but there are circumstances where you can't quite complete that task. Yes, you can sign up for a Wisconsin FLL Challenge regional. You can go through that process. And instead of having your team number from the official first team number, because you don't have it, just put in something that would, 11111. It doesn't, the field does not require any certain formatting. So you could just put in A, B, C, D, E if you wanted. So just put in something that we know is going to be fictitious. In the comment section, please just put in, we're applying to get our, registration with First. I think you can get your number. I may be wrong here. Maybe Brian, you might know this. I believe you can get your number even though you haven't paid or haven't got the grant money.
I think you get a number, but it may change because it might be a 100,000 number higher or something. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Okay. Well, if you don't have that 5-digit number, then just use a made up number that's easy to, identify. This obviously can't be a real number. What I do also ask is hopefully you'll have your team name determined by that point. So it can switch later when you get into the firstinspires.org registration. But at least for the Wisconsin Challenge regional registration, hopefully we got your team name and then we can match that up with the First Inspires database of contact information.
Okay, someone put in chat that they got their real number in May when they registered but didn't pay till July. So apparently, if you do register, you get a valid number.
Okay, terrific. So that's also part of the reason why I think last year we kept the window open only for 2 weeks. And so hopefully by keeping it open for an additional week, 3 weeks, that will give teams an opportunity to get that number and then get that into the Wisconsin regional registration process. We know there'll be exceptions. We get it. But obviously the fewer we have, the easier it is to get this all together. Anything else about the registration process for a regional event? Okay. The links are in the newsletter. So thank you for being diligent with your registrations. With that, then
Just came in. There's a question that just came in. Any dates for the juniors? I assume they mean explore at that point.
Yep. We are actually, well, I'll just I was going to talk about this at the end, but since the question was asked, next week's Zoom call will be for Explore. I mean, it'll be focused on Explore. If there are coaches for Challenge that are on it and want to ask Challenge questions, we absolutely will entertain those. That will just be at the end of the discussion of the Explore program. And so I've got a few confirmations even today of dates for the Explore festivals. And I'm hoping to get the last one so that we can publicize them and talk about them on Monday next week. So they are coming. We're looking at maybe more than one event per month, which would be great. I mean, and this also goes through the spring season. So, I mean, if we could do that, that would be awesome. And then, of course, there will be another registration process for Explore coaches. Different, of course, than the challenge process, but nonetheless, it'll be a separate website, separate registration. And in fact, for Explore, you are not limited to just one event. If you wanted to go to 2, 3, 4 events, you could. We only have limitations based on the capacity of the venue. For challenge, because you advance to further rounds, every team is given one opportunity to participate in a regional. All right. So, any other questions about registration? If not, I'll hand the mic over to Jay, talk about the robot game and any reffing questions. Issues.
Hey guys, so we got a couple things that came out this week. We'll take questions after we get done with this, or maybe we'll check in with Brian and see if he's got a deadline that he needs to be out of here before we do questions for the game. But we did get another update this week. Brian, do you happen to have that handy? Oh, perfect. Okay.
There you go.
You want to scroll down to the beginning of that section? One more.
Okay,
I think update
beginning.
6 is part of it, yeah. Okay. So, update 6 is just telling us about setting up the submersible. You guys, if anybody's having issues setting up with the wireframe that's on the mat, the outline of the model, it's kind of explaining why that looks weird. It's basically there so when you're putting two tables together, it helps you align the model properly. So read through that. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's really it's only going to affect you practicing if you're practicing with two tables and two mats. So if you're practicing with one table, one mat, and then just a little piece of wood or something that you mounted to the other side, that's not really going to affect you. Okay, go up to the next one. Oh, sorry. Yep, okay. So the krill and the reef, as we discussed last week, they when they did their setup video for us, they did not show us the placement of the krill and the reef segments. That has been corrected now. Starting locations are here. And Brian, you might not have this one yet, but we also got the release of the setup reference guide.
Let's see.
So this is the paper version of the video.
Yeah. Right here.
Yep.
Forgot to open that one. Sorry.
It's all good. I didn't warn you. And actually, I think this is done pretty well. I went through it, and I kind of like it. It's actually nice and clean. Apparently it's all white. It's just blank.
Yeah, their site's been really slow for me today.
So it's really not a huge deal when you guys see it. It's just walking you through the missions, how they're set up properly. Very happy to have the setup guide. I am too. I thought it was very good. The video was okay, but that's going to be kind of tough for doing early season field resets and stuff. Who's got time to pull out a video and watch all that, you know? So, yeah, that'll pop up eventually. But anyway, be sure to look at that. It's done really well. I liked it. Let's see, what else did I have for you guys? Oh, we had a couple questions this week. One that you'll see in the setup guide and in the video. We were asked about the starting position. Sorry, I'm going to pull up mine here. The starting position of the coral. The coral tree on mission 01. So the question was, can we choose our orientation of that mission model? And if any of you guys read it in the newsletter, this is the one I chose for this week because I thought it was a really good question. Generally we don't allow teams to pick and choose exact orientations of stuff. As long as they're set up properly, we consider that a proper setup. The video, which is part of the authority this year, it tells us that the teams can choose the starting orientation of the coral in the holder. So if you want it set up to the left or the right or whatever, as long as it's in a proper setup position, you do get to choose that. Probably if you could help us out and tell the kids to, after they do their inspection, we'll ask them if there's anything they want to look at. They can tell us that they want to change something. We may or may not let them change it if we don't understand what they're saying, but we prefer that they don't mess with the field. If we don't understand what they're saying, we'll ask them to maybe do it. But let's see, what else did I have? Did I finish that thought? I think I did. Yes, I did. I don't think I had any other questions come in this week. Sorry, I'm just checking my different sources here. And definitely, so guys, do check out that every week when we do the newsletter, do check out the little refs tips, because I'm going to try to put something in there that you guys may not have thought about each week. So we have a few. There's a few good ones where we told you guys about one last week. So if you didn't see that, where we were talking about the Kraken's treasure, so definitely go check that out because that's in the video from last week. It's pretty good. Oh, there we go. So there is the setup guide that goes, it's supposed to be the paper version of the video. So that being said, that will hold a hierarchy as well. So we can use that in setting up the tables and in making judgments as far as rules and stuff.
Yeah, I am missing the written descriptions that they had last year were better than the arrows. I am not in all cases understanding what they're pointing at.
Yeah, I understand that. I believe the written stuff is in the rule book. Am I crazy? The setup is definitely not in there. Yeah.
The setup isn't though. So knowing this thing should be in this position for the setup. So this is only my second year, but last year it just felt really easy to reset the models. We knew exactly what had to be where. We're struggling with that a little bit on our team.
Gotcha. Yeah, you really got to kind of use them all, all three of these sources together. So I get it. It's they've been rewriting our rule book for the last 3 years. They're making drastic changes to the format of it. I kind of like the way they did it. I think they have made a couple mistakes that they may change using updates at some point once they catch them or get enough complaints about them. But so that being said, always make sure you guys are checking your updates every week before you start your practices, because I do expect a couple more to be coming out.
I notice a lot of the arrows are literally pointing to the lines that are on the map where the yellow pieces should align with. It's kind of, I don't know, dumbing it down, but at the same time, That's what they're pointing at, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's helpful, especially for newer teams. Hopefully, if you're a second year or more team, you kind of know there's an outline on the mat of where all the mission models go. So if you haven't heard that yet, if you're new, you haven't heard that yet, look at your mat. You'll see, just put a model on where it goes, and you'll see an outline. So the outline should match up with that model, and you'll see some squares with X's. The squares with X's are where dual lock goes. So if you don't understand all that, be sure you check out the setup video, because I think they go through that.
I had a question about that actually for a couple of the missions. So for like mission 2, it goes up in the corner according to the setup information, and the shark is kind of pointing off to the corner of the map. But then if you look at like the mission instructions, it says you're supposed to release the shark back into the shark habitat, which is kind of in the middle of the board. So we were really confused about how that was supposed to work. Like, do you have to drag the shark all the way back to the middle of the board, or did they put the model in the wrong spot?
So that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked that one. Your second part to what you said is more correct. If you go to the rule book, there's 2 parts to the mission. There's releasing the shark, and Brian has it coming up on screen here. So yeah, there you go.
Hold on. Yep.
And so there's actually 2 scoring elements here too. So if the shark is no longer touching the cave, so it's released. Yes, we are aware that it sometimes straddles the home line. That's done by design. It's not a mistake. It's not a mission model failure. So if it's no longer touching the cave, you get points for that. So here's the second part. If you somehow get that into home, or your robot can scoop it up and take it over to the habitat, you get additional points. So it is meant to be that way.
Okay, so you do have to, like, if you want the full points, you would have to drag it like across the board.
Yeah, and that's not it's not uncommon. That's
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I think I know this answer because I think you guys answered it in one of the very early, maybe the first meeting. But once the shark is released, if it goes completely into home and is no longer on the game board, the students can touch it at that point and bring it because it's fully in home, right? But if it's straddling the mat in any way or crossing over the mat, they cannot touch it. Is that correct?
Again, you're partially correct. If it goes all the way into home, so anything that's in home is yours. You can touch it at any time if it's completely in home. So
Right.
that part's correct. Where you're off a little bit, if it's straddling the line, you'll still get points for it being separated from the cave, so it's no longer touching the cave. But if they choose to touch it, it comes off the board. So they'll still get the points for it being released because the robot did accomplish that on its own,
Okay.
but they wouldn't have the ability to now move that over to the habitat.
That answers my question because it'll help me coach the kids in terms of like, well, what happens if it does that? What options do they have? And we can tell them the rules and they can make a decision.
Yeah, and it's again, that's designed to be that way, to give them a little bit of critical thinking here. What do I need to do here? If I touch this, what happens?
Yep.
Can I leave it alone? Yes, you can leave it alone. Can you touch it? Sure, you can. What are the consequences for touching it?
Yep. I just want to make sure I can coach them correctly on the rule so that they know and they can make that decision.
Sure. And let me point you to that. I have it on my screen here, Brian. It's so that would be Rule 18, and it's on page. Oh, ironically enough, it's on page 18. So of
Thanks
the
for
rule,
the extra pointer.
yeah. So there you go. That tells you what happens if something is outside the robot or outside the home area or partially in the home area. Any other questions you guys have?
Real quick on the coral reef segments, according to the rule book, it says if the coral reef segment is standing upright outside of home and touching the mat.
So basically, they never have to be interacted with if you can figure out how to get around them, correct?
Yeah, they start in a scoring position.
That's
So
what
the whole
Just
theory,
wanted to confirm.
yeah, that's a good point. So they start in a scoring position. The whole theory here is that you're navigating around coral reefs without damaging them, right? So in the real world, that's the analogy here. You're trying to navigate around the reefs without damaging them. So yeah, you get points if you don't damage them or don't knock them over, or, you know. So do note that it says that the reef segment, to get the points, it's got to be outside of home. So
Correct, yeah.
if a reef segment is standing upright outside of home and touching the mat, so they're further emphasizing that we want you to navigate around these or move these gently so you don't damage the reef, right? So if you just bull them over and bring them into home and set them up straight, you know, you don't get points for it. Now, if you somehow put them back on the mat, that's fine. But that's the whole point here.
Did you guys reach a conclusion on the questions that came out around the treasure chest? If it is touching team equipment at the end of the game, will it eliminate the points for both, or did you finally decide that that's going to be two different separate missions?
So, okay.
With the raised mast.
Yeah. So because they specifically did Kraken's treasure as the treasure chest, we're saying that those are different missions because they're literally different mission numbers.
Okay.
I'm interpreting it, and I so just kind of behind the scenes, we have a whole list of, as Barry's here, he'll tell you, we have a list of questions in to first about, we had our referee call a couple weeks ago, and I have a whole list of questions, and that's one of them. But our interpretation is, since it's a separate mission number, it's a separate mission. So number 7, mission 7, is pertaining specifically to the treasure chest.
Cool. Yeah, I had seen it on the recordings and just didn't know if it got finalized with your follow-ups. Thanks.
Yeah, I should give a little bit of clarification there as well. So the treasure chest is the same mission model as the Raise the Mast. So M6 and M7 pertain to the same model. M6, your goal is to raise the mast. M7, your goal is to get the treasure chest outside of the nest. So the question here is, if the treasure chest is touching team equipment at the end of the match, does that also negate the mast part of the mission, or the other mission? So because they're calling it two different missions, we're saying it's two different missions. And I guess that goes the other way too. So if you're holding the treasure chest at the end of the match, you're not going to negate your points for Raise the Mast either.
But at the same time, if you are transporting the treasure chest to the research vessel and match ends, you lose the treasure chest.
Yep. And I think where teams are going to get hit with this is probably going to be my ref tip for next week, by the way. You guys kind of got a preview of it. I think last week we talked about it. So I think where a lot of teams are going to get really disappointed here is they're going to bring this thing into home, and they're going to, attempt to push that out, into the ship later, and they're going to forget about it or something. It's going to be sitting in home, and it's going to be a sled or touching team equipment, and they're not going to get points for it. So I do expect that to be something that happens quite a bit. Anybody else?
I have one more question.
Sure.
You might have already said this, and if so, I apologize. If we only have one table, what's the best way to set up mission 10?
So the way I have done it, and I have seen teams do it, and you have a bunch of teams here that I'm sure are practicing with one table. I think, Barry, you guys are, yeah? So the way I have done it is I just put a 2x4 on the other side, or a 2x3, just like the wall. So I kind of create a little portion of a second table. and
Okay.
just create yourself a little platform there.
Just make sure it's level basically and
Yeah, you
get
definitely
off
want it
that.
to be level. I saw Barry come off mute. You want to maybe share a
Yeah,
little bit about?
I'm driving right now, but
Oh, sorry.
we could take, no, it's okay. We could take a photo though, but we had some Legos that we cantilevered over the edge so that it's at the right height to hold it that would simulate like being on the other side of the table.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Barry. Didn't mean to bug you driving. I just knew
No,
you
no,
had
you're
that set up. So, yeah. So the goal here is just make sure it's as even as possible, as level as possible with the other side. But
With our table, we have a movable, basically 2x4 platform. They build a box out of 2x4s and a scrap of the same plywood you use for the base, and it can move from location to location from year to year.
that was my next point there, Michael. I was just getting ready to say that this is a very common thing for teams that maybe newer and haven't seen this but a year or two. It's very common to have a shared mission that spans the tables. So something like that that's movable, savable from year to year, that would probably be pretty valuable. All right, we will pass it over to Brian. Brian, do you want to talk about the scrimmages and signups and stuff, along with whatever you have?
Yeah. From a scrimmage perspective, I'll dig it up, put it in the chat in a minute. But got about 3 slots left for the Waukesha scrimmage on the 26th of October. So from a scrimmage perspective, we do judging and with the robot matches. Now they're not scheduled competition matches, but they're timed matches. Okay, with the headrests, Jay will be there as well. So you can actually come in, run it like a match. So you get comfortable with it, ask your questions, find out if you've got some gotchas to what you're doing. From a judging perspective, we use the same rubric that we use for the competitions. We do it a slightly different in that we take a little bit more time. We'll do the same half-hour interview slot, but we'll actually take time to go through the rubric answers with the with the kids and help. Usually we have them help us fill out the rubric so they can kind of see how a judge is thinking through things. So that's how we handle that. So it's the teams really seem to like that, and they feel it's valuable time. So if you haven't done it and have the time, we got a few slots left for that.
Twist is full, so they're not accepted anymore. I checked in with Lakeshore; they have all that they think they need. So, as far as scrimmages that we know about, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. There should be 3 spots left. So jump over to that link. I know there's one in Slack, and I think there's one in the newsletter. So if you want to get a scrimmage, sign up quick because they're almost gone.
And then for some reason it stopped sharing. Okay.
Oh, I did it. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. One thing that came up this week in Slack, somebody, and this happened a couple weeks ago on the call as well, asking about, do we have to do oceans? Okay. If you look, the prompt is really around this season. Your challenge is to dive into a problem faced by people who explore the oceans. Okay. So based on that, if you can tie something with rivers and lakes back into it, to the ocean issue or something, that's fine. But you have to be able to tie your innovation project to problems faced by people who explore the oceans. So it's much more constrained than last year on how they did it. But they really want you to focus around the concept of the ocean. But again, yes, I know we don't live by an ocean, but we don't live on the moon, and we send people on the moon too. So it's you have to get creative to see how you're going to solve some of these problems. But some of these same problems do equate into local waterways we have. But the key thing is make sure the judges understand your connection. Yes, you have a question?
Yes. So I just wanted to make sure because I had some other coaches reaching out to me saying, okay, well, this is on exploring the ocean. They're missing, I feel, the piece on helping people explore, I guess you could say, water. And they were diving into the fact that, the board has coral and the board has sharks. So shouldn't it be, just like our explorer notebook said, you know, the sharks are hungry and there's overfishing going on. Shouldn't the problem be overfishing and how we're going to solve it? And I said, no, that has nothing to do with exploring. So I wanted to kind of ask the question tonight, are they right if they're thinking the problem is overfishing and how they're going to fix it? Or is this really on how you're exploring the ocean, a problem of exploring the ocean, not overfishing, not coral getting bleached? Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, I mean, the prompt is really around problems faced by people who explore the oceans. Okay, so if they can tie their problem into that, okay, then they're meeting the spirit of it. We're not trying to be any more creative than in that. So they have to be able to, explain to the judges in a clear way how what they're doing maps into that.
Okay, thank you.
And off the hand, I mean, I can't think of an answer how they would do that, but if they have a way to do it.
Yep.
And Brian Hicks, you're on. You have anything else to add to that?
No, not really.
Well, I'll add that, so I've already had 2 inquiries, so along similar lines, dealing with environmental issues, pollution of the oceans. And my answer was, or my recommendation was exactly what Brian just described. If you can take that issue and tie it into helping the people who explore the oceans, I mean, first you have to identify the problem. Why is it a problem for oceanographers or deep sea divers or marine biologists? Why is it a problem for them? And then, of course, the solution to it. If you can tie it in, it'll work. That may be a bigger challenge than what you may expect.
Yeah, I think the comic that you just scrolled over is a good, it kind of starts to focus very much on the shark and that they're hungry. And that's really easy for the kids to pick up. They're not realizing necessarily how that might translate to making it hard for people to operate in there. So I can understand the confusion there.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no words in the comics, so that doesn't help.
There's no little thing that says a shark saying, I'm hungry, I need food.
Well, he's got a tracker on him.
He's got a little belly right there, and all the
That's
kids
right.
noticed his little belly, and then he's thinking of food and where's his food, right? So, right, that was, and then the other picture you were showing with the sonar, it was like, okay, well, now there's a problem with sonar, and it was like, these are up for interpretation and just trying to get the kids talking and thinking, and like you said earlier, we're not next to an ocean, so yeah.
No, we are not next to an ocean. And I've had people ask, can we do rivers and lakes because we're not by an ocean? And we're really clearly directed to go towards the ocean here, in what the prompt is.
Anyone else?
I guess on that topic, is it bad to reach out to experts knowing we don't have a topic, asking them for problems that they're having since we seem to be stumbling on a problem?
No, that's great. And I mean, the great thing about that is you get to start that connection with an expert, right? And now if you pick a topic that they kind of tell you about, right? Then you can kind of have a couple iterations with them back and forth about talking through, here's what we're thinking, how does this help? Things like that, because that's one of the things from a rubric perspective. And we'll hop over to the rubrics here. And if you start looking at the rubrics, you're talking about sharing your ideas with others, getting feedback, iterating on that. These are key things that judges are looking for. So that helps you, so if you do that and it works out for you that you get a connection, okay, you could potentially use that connection as part of the rest of, for the season too. Assuming the person's up for it. Right.
Yes, exactly. Yep, totally. Thank you.
With that, I'm assuming everybody's seen, but the rubrics are a little bit different this year. So there are still 3 rubric sheets. There's one that's strictly a feedback sheet, gives you feedback on core values, innovation project, and robot design. We still have the different optional award nominations that can happen. But then the rubric for innovation project and robot design, if you look, there is no one specifically saying it's core values. If you look through and understand the rubrics, the ones with the gears on them, the rows with the gears, are ones that tie to core values as well. So they actually will end up being scored in innovation project and core values, or robot design and core values, depending upon which rubric sheet it's on. So the ones on innovation project that have the gears will count for innovation project and the core values for those. And then the ones that have the gears on them for robot design would be robot design and core values. The ones with just the squares are just that sheet. So core values is still a key thing. It is still still 25% of the champions rank. So, don't think that it's not. It definitely is. They're just trying to kind of show you where those are really happening inside the other areas. Because if you think about it, core values is more the how we do, and the project and robot design is kind of the what. Those are the big things I have. If there's more questions, obviously happy to answer them.
Michael's asking
Michael,
about this.
I'll post that. I'll hang on a second. I gotta grab the link.
I have it if you want.
Paste it in if you have it.
Yep.
It should be in the newsletter as well.
Okay.
Well, there it is again.
Thanks. I think I should have it handy, but it's always that 12th character and I screw up.
All right, we'll open it up to any questions about anything FLL related, please.
Oh, I was going to say, I'll take the winning lottery numbers and the secret to life and.
Somebody's been Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reader. 42.
I like it. I love it. Well, that question's gone, so now all we need is lottery numbers.
Right.
Well, maybe that's one of the lottery numbers. Maybe I got it all mixed up.
All right.
Hey, if we can't geek
All right.
out with the Lego League team, who can we?
That's right.
All right. Well, if no more questions, we'll adjourn for the evening. Remember, this call was recorded. It'll be posted within a day or two. Next Monday's Zoom call will focus on Explore. But if you do have challenge questions, you might want to log in a little bit later, maybe log in at 8 o'clock, or listen to the Explore stuff. There's a lot of good stuff happening with the growth in that program. And if need to reach any one of us, I mean, the emails are in our communications to you, but mine in particular is flteams@badgerbots.org. So with that, we'll call it an evening. Good night, everybody, and good luck with your teams.
Bye, everyone.